When using cloth dynamics on an object, we have the ability to have collision objects brush up against it and affect it. Gravity can pull it down, so gravity is pulling it down. We can also cut the material, and we could also have it sew together. So we could have an animation that does this, or we can have an animation that does that. We can have both. So what I thought we could take a look at is using the sewing feature that's part of the Cloth Dynamics feature, and set that up. So I'm going to go ahead and just clear this scene out. Head over to Modeler and let's build a quick object. I'm just going to go over to the Create tab, and we'll use the Disk tool. Okay, I'm going to center that. I'm going to get rid of the top and bottom polys, and I'm going to hit Tab so that we can use subpatches. And let's taper this. I'm going to go over to Modify, Taper, and just kind of taper it in a little bit. Now, the thing to know if you're going to have something sew together or cut apart is that you actually need two pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and paste, and I'm going to drop that down. Okay, so we'll do something like this. Let's give this a basic surface. So I'm just going to go over to the surface editor, and I'm just going to copy and paste the surface on there, just so we get some kind of color so that it'll show up. Okay, so I'm going to take this and save it out, and just call this dress, and let's send it over. Well, before we send it over, I don't want the dress to just fall 100%, so I'm going to grab these top points and make a selection set called Fix. Create, save, and send over to layout. Okay, go to texture view. I forgot to turn smoothing on. I'm going to go to the surface editor and turn smoothing on just to make it look a little nicer. And let's set up some dynamics on this. So object properties, dynamics, cloth, the fix points that we set up right there, we can see them selected. I'm going to go over to the etc tab and use cotton thick. That's just a preset. We can change it if we don't like the setup. I'm going to add some gravity to the Y and calculate. Okay, so the bottom of the dress falls because there's nothing holding it, and the top of the dress seems to look pretty good. So what I'm going to do is make this one piece. And to do that, I'm just going to, well, first I'm going to go to the Geometry tab and set the subdivision order to last. It'll be less points that we have to calculate, and it also means less points that we have to sew. So I'm going to go back to Dynamics, go to Cloth Effects, Edit Effects, and use the Sewing tool. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. All we have to do is select the first point with the left mouse click, and with the right mouse click, select the second point, and then click Sew. So left, right, sew, left, right, sew. Just going to kind of rotate around. Left, right, sew, left, right, sew. Almost there. Left, right, sew, left, right, sew, left, right, sew. Okay, so I've got my points sewn together, and let's calculate. Okay, so now they're on frame one, they sew together, and now they're one piece. Now, if this is what I wanted, well, I would have modeled it this way. But the whole idea here is that now we're set up to cut, but we need something to cut it. So that's what we're going to set up now. So I like that it takes 60 frames to rest, and I want that to happen because I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and make 120 frames, and let's add a collision object. So items, add dynamic object collision, and we're just going to call this cutter. Instead of bounce, I'm going to set the mode to event. Okay, so it's not going to brush up against the geometry and push it away. It's actually going to, an event is going to take place. So I'm going to take this object and this collision object and move it off to the side. Keep it there till frame 60, so it stays over there, and then I want it to pass through the object like so. But I don't want it to go through so fast because I want you to see it kind of do a few points at a time. Okay, so I just opened up the dope track and slid the keyframe over. Okay, that should be better. Okay, so we're almost there. All we need to do is tell the points what to do when the event object passes through. So I'm going to go back to the Dynamics tab, back to Edit Effects, and I'm going to say on this pair of points, the event is going to be cut by event. Click the sewing tool again, and it jumps to the next points, cut by event, and I'm going to go all the way around. Just clicking all the points. And then what I like to do is just cycle through and make sure I got them all. Okay, so if you noticed under event, we also have sewing by event, but right now we're going to use cut by event, and then I'll show you an example of the sewing by event. So now that we have that, I'm going to calculate, and there we go. What we're seeing is it looks like one piece, even though it's two pieces, and then as the event item passes through, so they don't all disconnect at the same time, you have full control. So see, they start to pull apart, and we've cut through the geometry, sending it in two pieces. Okay, so that's a quick look at the cut by event and using the sewing tool with cloth effects. I'm going to go ahead and clear this scene out to show you one example of the sewing by event, and then we'll wrap up. So let me go ahead and clear the scene. Okay, so in this example, the zipper area, the zipper on this vest is the event object, and as we pass it through the points, they sew together. So this would be an example of it sewing by event versus cut by event. Okay. So again, just a quick look at using the sewing feature in the cloth effects tools, and it's easy to set up and you can get some really nice results.